Welcome. Please subscribe, thumb up the video, share it to your social media. This is a fan theory for the show called From. It is on MGM+. It is a fan theory that contains spoilers. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome.
It's showtime.
All right. Thank you for being a channel member. Thank you for all channel members, past, present, future. Thank you for those watching from the clouds. Salute, salute. Please subscribe and click that bell, thumb up the video, and share it everywhere, including your YouTube community tab. Today we're going over From Season 1, Episode 3, Choosing Day. We are going to be doing some choosing, or at least Matthews and Jade will be doing that. We first start off the episode with some riding. Honestly, I don't know if that was Donna or not. I've heard people say that was Donna. We're not going to show it here. If you go back and watch it, you'll see it opens up with Donna, and she's a few feet away from the Matthews and some youngsters. So that shows you how wild Colony House is. So I can understand why later on in the episode, Tabitha is having a cow when Julie, spoiler alert, Julie chooses Colony House. So we start off with the Matthews asleep, and Tabitha is having a nightmare about the night when they first arrived in the previous episode, where Julie and Tabitha were banging on the door, and here comes the creature from around the corner. She's having a nightmare about that. That's Jim consoling her. Jade, he's yelling. Donna rushes in there, tells him to shut up. He's waking everybody up. Just woken up in the nightmare from when he was in the car accident. Boyd, he wakes up and he's experiencing symptoms of having Parkinson's disease. He sees the box that Frank is going to have to be in, and he kind of weighs the idea of whether to put Frank in the box or not. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. And so here we see that he has some pace beads. This is kind of like what people use in the military when they're counting paces, whenever going distances and whatnot. Each of the beads could represent a mile, or it could represent a few meters. Also, he has a bag next to him, which looks green, like it's army green. He's waking up, experiencing the Parkinson's, early Parkinson's coming on. And it went away when he got the worms in season 2, and then he got it back later on in season 3. So I wouldn't be surprised if season 4 it opens up. Somehow he's got the worms again and the Parkinson's is gone. So Boyd, he goes to Frank in the holding cell, offers Frank some food. Frank says Lauren liked Boyd because he made decisions others couldn't, and she believed he was the one to get everyone home. At this point in the story, everybody's trusting Boyd. Everybody believes in him. He's sort of like Superman, especially because he's the one that found the talisman stones in the grotto, in the forest. He also came back with livestock that helped feed everybody. So Boyd has been basically the superhero up until this point, which we know later on in the series, people start to doubt him. Right now he's Superman. Everyone believes in him, and he kind of has that positive image, which helped him become a sheriff. Yeah, Frank, he's feeling bad. He should feel bad. He's the one that was derelict in his duties as a husband and as a father. And we know that later on in the episode, he blames, not really blames, but it's because of Fromville. It does something to people what makes them not like how they were before they went in. Donna is giving Jade the talk. There's no escape, and Jade believes it's an elaborate escape room like puzzle booked by Toby. Yeah, Jade doesn't believe it. Just kind of looking at the extras in the backgrounds, a lot of them, and Father Cautry is going to tell this is the Matthews, that a lot of people have somewhat accepted their fate. And we see a lot of them in the background. They're playing, they're talking. They just accepted that life is the way it is, and they're doing kind of like normal people stuff. They're not really looking or believing that they're in a nightmare. There's even a guy back here. He's trying to tend to all this wild grass. They do have bugs. So He's doing his best to get rid of the wild plants and vegetation. And we'll see in later shots that people are actually planting stuff to try to grow stuff wildly. And Julie's going to remark on that later on, that it's all one big community, whereas everyone kind of pitches in when it comes to Colony House. I'm pretty sure the town is the same way, where it's two separate communities, all one area. And so this is hilarious because Jade took your bike, and you didn't do anything about it.
Slayer.
Yeah, she came rolling up on her bike thinking that she was going to have some exercise, even had some headphones on. No, you guessed nothing. All right, you guessed nothing. And I'm surprised that the headphones even work. I mean, maybe the headphones don't work. She just wants to look cool. I don't know. But yeah, so Jade takes her bike and she couldn't do anything about it. And Tabitha's talking to Ethan, and Ethan, he sees the boy in white. The boy in white is being a whole weirdo, just standing out there staring at Ethan.
And to me, it's crazy.
And I think that he was standing out there staring at Ethan because at this point in the story, the boy in white, he knows that the seizure that Ethan had received or had experienced and the sleep afterwards, that was when Ethan was in the RV and he was injured after the crash, that Ethan has all the things kind of beamed inside of him. And I think that's the reason why the boy in white is just staring at him, seeing what type of person, what type of kid Ethan is, because it could be that Fromville chose Ethan to get these thoughts or these abilities. I went through maybe like 4, maybe more on a previous video where Ethan has a lot of abilities based off of what he was saying while he was asleep and Christy was looking on. Ethan got a lot of abilities. So the boy in white is looking on, seeing who's this kid? Is this another chosen one? Because the last time there was a chosen one, which was Christopher, they arrived in a 2-car type of accident with Victor, Miranda, Eloise in one vehicle, Christopher, and maybe someone else in another. So this is happening again. Maybe this is the start of a new cycle where people who have been reincarnated, talking about Jade, talking about Tabitha, have arrived in town, and now it's maybe seeing who is the chosen one. I know that Tabitha went to the tower at the end of season 2, and the boy in white pushed her out into the real world. I think she was allowed to go through the tower to be pushed out to bring back Henry to help out with Victor. But I think that the chosen one for this cycle, if I had to just name somebody, would more than likely be Ethan, even though he's not really given a lot of screen time after season 1. So Tia Chen working every day tirelessly. Kenny asked her to take a break and to rest, and she can't. She's wanting to stay busy because her husband was unalived by what we find out. Well, we already know it's Sarah. They don't know it's Sarah. But I think she just wants to keep busy, and this is her way of mourning. So Kenny's like, hey, you got to rest. You got to take a break. And then she breaks glass and blames it on Kenny, then cuts her hand. And she also blames herself for not being there when Kenny's dad passed away. And Kenny tells her, reminds her, even if you were there, there wasn't anything you could do to help him. Look at her. She comes in looking like she just didn't set someone up for the okie doke. Yeah. Sarah comes in looking all innocent, like she had just set somebody up, like she had just lined somebody up. Yeah, so Sarah, she comes in looking innocent, not knowing that she's the one that caused all the drama. She wants to help. Let me help you with this. And it kind of has the broken glass call back to what she told Nathan in the previous episode, how when the voices on Demon Radio talk to her, it's almost like broken glass where she's hearing different voices, things are being said, and she's having a hard time piecing it back together. And the glass also represents the fact that she, talking about Sarah, through the decision that she made, she has broken their family and shattered it apart. And now she's trying to help them pick up the pieces, but you're never going to be able to fix the pieces of a glass once it's broken because it's just so many different shards. Victor is pace counting from Colony House to the woods, foreshadowing that the trees can move. And I think it's also foreshadowing the fact that the trees move Boyd and Sarah from one part of the forest to the area where the spider webs are in season 1, episode 10. Now, I know that there was kind of like this perception that something large may have grabbed them and taken them to the webbing for the baby spiders to get. But I think that it's just those spiders, they're regular size spiders, but they're just maybe super spiders, just not large in size. So the trees moved Boyd and Sarah closer to the lighthouse. And I think it's because the lighthouse is where you ultimately want to go. As far as season 1, the lighthouse is where you want to go, and the entity was somewhat moving people away from it by causing the storm at the end of the season. So the lighthouse was an exit or a place to go. They kind of abandoned that when it came to season 3 because season 3 became more about Jade and Tabitha finding out who they came from, and Boyd dealing with Fatima and the pregnancy and everything. So the lighthouse was a big deal. Yep, his pace counting. He's pace counting. And so Julie's talking to Fatima. She remarks how they grow their own food. From what she's seeing, it's almost like while Tabitha and Jim, which later on in the scene is going to be talking to Father Kotri and looking at places in town where to be at, Julie's getting somewhat of a first-hand experience of what life is like in Colony House. And I think it gives her a breath of fresh air because when baby Thomas rolled over and passed away, Julie had to end up becoming mom and dad to Ethan. And she somewhat had more responsibility put on her, especially because this divorce has been pending. And the family's been kind of slowly breaking apart. So I think that her being in Colony House, it helps her to kind of feel like a kid again and be a part of a family where they're actually all giving in as far as emotion, helping each other. And she doesn't have to carry most of the workload. And we see people in the background right here. They're tending to the grass and planting. If Fatima falls, everybody falls. And we see that season 3, I think that more people were open to look for Fatima when she was kidnapped because she's been kind of like the beacon of hope for this place. So it'd be interesting to see how it is season 4 when they kind of have the aftermath of Fatima going through this pregnancy and she gave birth to this pod. Fatima was kidnapped by Elgin. Elgin had things done to him. Sarah did things to help them find Fatima. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how that plays out as far as moving forward with the series. And Jim is Father of the Year. He tells Ethan he went to get some stuff. Ethan's like, do you have a book? And Jim has a book. He has The Flight of the Cromenockle. So, fun fact, Flight of the Cromenockle is not a real story.
Breaking news.
It's a book just for the show. I think that it would be somewhat of from MGM or Paramount dropping the ball if they don't actually make this book for people to buy and then have like little Easter eggs in it that ties into the show, because Ethan is referencing the Flight of the Cromenockle throughout season 1 to kind of explain how things are as far as what's going on in Fromville, because I do believe that he was given the information, all the keys to the kingdom, and he explains it basically by using the Flight of the Cromenockle. The book only exists within the universe of the show, and the Cromenockle is a girl. Probably because, based off of what we heard from the creators, where E-Man had interviewed them, that Jade was originally supposed to be an 18-year-old girl. But I think they just didn't really change many more details after making Jade like a 30-year-old something man. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he's in his 20s, but he appears to be in his 30s. He appears to be in his 30s. So the Cromenockle is a girl, and she's like a young girl. Jade was originally supposed to be an 18-year-old girl, and I think that's the reason why Jade is basically the Cromenockle. And later on, we're going to hear Ethan tell Tabitha that the part in the diner where a lot of stuff that's lost and found is the den of the Lonely Dragon. And the Lonely Dragon being Tien Chen. A dragon lady is usually a stereotype of certain East Asian and occasional South Asian and or Southeast Asian women as strong, domineering, and mysterious, which is Tien Chen. With Tien Chen being like a dragon lady, the Lonely Dragon would fit Tien Chen because she just lost her husband. She's mourning and grieving over him and using work in the diner to kind of fill that void or that hole she's feeling and experiencing while she's living it from. So I think that the Cromenockle is Jade. Originally, he's supposed to be an 18-year-old girl. They kind of changed that, but they didn't change the story of the Cromenockle. And Tien Chan's the Lonely Dragon. And I think the Rainbow Sky is Fromville. It's just another way of saying Fromville. So Jim is Dad of the Year. He's Dad of the Year. He's got the book, and you can really see in season 1 that Jim was really the main one holding the family together. Also, being lost in the Rainbow Sky could be getting reincarnated. Stuff that nobody wanted are all the items in the diner's background, treasure to Tien Chen since people eventually need it, and probably belong to Tabitha and Jade. So stuff in the diner, maybe even stuff in the colony house that Julie and Elgin eventually kind of play with when they find the Polaroid camera, is more than likely that stuff probably belonged to Jade and Tabitha, constantly being reincarnated, constantly going back to From and living out these lives with a bunch of other people. Now, granted, there may have been stuff from other people, of course, because they weren't there by themselves, but I think majority of that stuff belonged to Jade and Tabitha. As far as the families they brought in and people they interacted with, I think majority of the stuff is there. That's the reason why Tabitha saw the bracelet in the diner and recognized it, because according to Tabitha, she kept making the bracelet, somewhat remembering who she came from as far as her former lives.
All right.
The map of the Rainbow Sky could be the bracelet Tabitha found as in a breadcrumb to find a path forward. Jim is Father of the Year. He and Tabitha are playing around with Ethan. Julie comes in. She's an older teenager, Debbie Downer.